Hello, I'm Joan. I'm a Canadian family physician who also works as a restorative medical educator, facilitator, and coach. I create spaces that rehumanize the work of healthcare. I'm creating this podcast to remind myself, as well as anyone else working in a helping profession, that when you are working and caring for your human patients, you are the other human in the room. Hey there, healthcare humans. Before we dive into this week's episode, I wanted to give you a quick reminder that Creating Space, my new coaching program and retreat, is going to be starting October 7th, 2024. So if you have been listening to the podcast for a while and really already making some changes in your life that help you rehumanize healthcare, and you're ready for the next step, you're ready to be a part of a community of healthcare humans who are asking these same innovative, system changing questions of what happens if I find a way for my version of healthcare to be human for me? How does that change the system as a whole? How can it feel better for my own life? And you want to spend most Monday afternoons with me for the next 6 months, as well as a fabulous 3-night retreat in April where we sink in even deeper and get to be in real-time community with each other. I would love for you to join me. There's a really amazing group of healthcare humans who have already signed up, but there is space for you. We're waiting for you. So what are you waiting for? So in this podcast, the show notes below, you'll be able to find the link, or you can just go to joanchanmd.com/space, book your call with me. We can make sure it's the right time for you, good fit for you. And let's get going. We're waiting for you to join us in Creating Space, and I'm so excited for you to book your call and see you there. Now, on with the episode. Hello there, healthcare humans. Thank you so much for coming back for another episode of The Other Human in the Room. Okay, so today's episode is my first episode I'm recording in a few weeks because I have been on my summer vacation. I will say ever since I started working, I have always taken 1 or 2 weeks off, like as a summer vacation, though typically not in a row. But if you are a longtime listener of the podcast, you'll know last summer, for the first time, I took 4 weeks off in a row and called it my summer sabbatical. And that was incredible and taught me so much. And I made a whole episode about that. And I thought it'd be fun to come back and kind of do it again for the summer sabbatical I took this year. So this year, kind of for logistical reasons and because it felt good to me, I ended up taking like 1 week off in July and then 3 weeks off consecutively in August. And that felt like a fun mix for me. 2 out of the 4 weeks, I also took off, like my kids and my husband took off as well. And we went to different cottages. In the week we took off together in August, we went to a cottage, we went camping, we went to like our local zoo. We took the city bus to our like local mall and saw Inside Out 2. And I'm definitely going to do a whole bonus episode about Inside Out and Inside Out 2 and how I'm obsessed with them and about emotions in general. So get ready for that. And all of that was really delicious and fun. And then the other 2 weeks that I'm just like finishing up were 2 weeks that were just me. So husband was at work, and in one case he was traveling for work. Kids were at summer camp and at daycare, and it was just me deciding completely for myself what I wanted to do with my time. And those I just really strongly recommend. Any amount of that. If it starts with like a single day, for me, it was a few years ago and I took a whole day off just for myself and I called it a retreat. And it was just me deciding what to do with my day. And it felt terrifying and it felt delicious. And it opened up something in me that I just have never looked back. The me days, the me weeks are really special. And so I thought I'd share some of what I got up to. You know, it's sort of like when you go back to school, what did I do on summer vacation? I both wanted to share some of what I did, as well as like what I learned. Because it was an interesting one, I'll say. So in terms of some of the things I did, I made a list. So let's see. I read some books. I always think I'm going to read all the way through a nonfiction book when I'm on vacation. But the thing is, I think I have really confirmed something I already knew, which is that I am a nonfiction book snacker. I do not read um nonfiction books consecutively and in one sitting at all. I gave it a good try, especially Prentice Hemphill's new book, which I don't have it in front of me, but I think it's called What It Takes to Heal, I think. But they are an incredible thinker and podcaster. And I read the first couple chapters while actually I was up visiting the Millcroft Inn, which is the space that I'm going to be hosting my retreat as a part of my Creating Space program next April. And I got to a certain point and I just felt full. I was like, I don't want to read the next chapter yet. I'm still digesting this chapter. And that's like the thing with nonfiction, especially when it's good nonfiction. I'm like, no, I'm satisfied. I've gotten what I needed and I'm going to come back to this later because I'm not going to force myself to like basically overeat the information. So so I read little bits of that and some other books, but I do like to tear through a fiction book, especially the kind of fiction. The only kind of fiction I'm really interested in is like light, fun fiction. And for me, that's all. Have I read anything that was fiction that wasn't what you qualify as like a rom-com? I cannot think of a book. If I have, I've forgotten that I read it. Oh, maybe like one science fiction book too, that I tore through. But I actually, the one that I reread, it was a reread and just like such a like soothing comfort read. It was Book Lovers by Emily Henry. I enjoy all of Emily Henry's books, but Book Lovers in particular is like the perfect mix of Pride and Prejudice in the modern day, mixed with You've Got Mail, mixed with like Hallmark movies, and and it's a little spicy, a little sexy, and I'm saying yes, please to all of that. So that that was great. I read that in a day, but the rest was just some snacking. So that was my reading list for my summer vacation. I watched some things too. I watched a good amount of Veronica Mars because I had not watched that in so long, and I forgot that like I have Amazon Prime and it's on there, and I watched maybe like the first half of the first season, and I swear that first season of television is like pretty much a perfect season of television. And Veronica Mars is an incredible character, and Kristen Bell plays her so well. And the series as a whole does not maintain its quality throughout its run. I actually haven't watched the new reboot version. I might get there eventually, or I might just stop because I'm like, why mess with perfection? And that was great. I also watched some Eras Tour live streams, like some Taylor, because I don't know if you know this, but someone, and actually usually multiple someones, every single time Taylor Swift has one of her Eras tours, people are streaming it like on Instagram or TikTok, and there's people who like collect these live streams, so then you don't have to find them. And I've watched parts of that show. Especially, it's fun to watch the acoustic section, or they call it the surprise songs, where because they're different every night, and she does mashups. So I watched bits and bobs of that while making friendship bracelets. Yes, my show is not until November, but I am getting prepared, and I don't imagine over this fall season I'm going to dedicate whole days to making friendship bracelets per se. Maybe I will, but I don't have to now because I made more than will fit on my arm. So I can probably stop. But that was really fun. And just to be crafty, I haven't been crafty and I don't even know how long. And so that was just like a fun process and allowed me to like my new flourishing inner Swiftie to have some space to do some good stuff. I also, I saw my therapist a couple times, my somatic therapist. I saw some friends. I saw some family. I went for a hike totally by myself and like just listened to nature and like bathed in the forest in the way, how they call maybe forest bathing is more than just walking through a bunch of trees while being mindful, in which case I apologize for saying I'm forest bathing when I'm not. All clothes remain on, but just like trees are special. Like my only tattoo that I have is of trees. I'm trying to show the camera. It's upside down, but I like to say that trees are my sisters. And I don't even really know fully what I mean by that, other than that it just feels very true. I just look at a tree and I'm like, what's up, my sister? Like she's just my sister. I don't know what to tell you. And so that was lovely to get to spend some time with tree family. I did bits and bobs of non-clinical work that felt fun and sort of potentially new sprouts of things to come, which that's always exciting. Played piano, played ukulele, sang, danced. I taught myself Chapel Roan's Hot to Go dance. If you don't know what that is, look up Chaperone Hot to Go and learn the dance yourself. It's very fun to do. Chaperone is amazing. She is my like summer music find that I mean, me and everyone else. I'm not finding like hot niche people, these very popular people, but she's so good. Got my hair cut, as you can see if you are watching the video. And I think that's like the main list. Just like, oh, I did end up spending like, so I'm mainly focusing on the weeks that I had totally to myself, right? And even in those weeks, especially that like last week, the week I just had off, I really felt like a desire to spend more time with my kids. And maybe if you don't have kids, you're like, wow, why don't you want to spend all your time with your kids? Don't you want to spend so much time with your kids? And maybe if you have kids, you're like, wow, I don't want to spend all your time with your kids. But also some of you who have kids know you get to a certain point and you get maxed out and you're like, here you go, someone else spend some time with my kids. But I felt nourished and resourced enough that I was like, I'm gonna pick them up early. Let's go to a park. Oh no, going to a park isn't fun for me. Let's play cards. We've found a few card games that especially my older son who's 6, he can really play. I just taught him Crazy 8 Countdown, for example, and he gets really into that. And it's so fun. They're so fun. They're 4 and they're 6. And they're really at that fun age. They're genuinely at a fun age, other than someone was telling me when they were like 18 months old that was a fun age. And those people were not telling the truth, in my opinion, to my experience anyway. So, yeah, those are some of the things that I did. And it all felt delicious and delightful. And I didn't often really plan it out. Some of it I did sort of plan ahead of time, like I'm going to go to Michael's and pick up these beads and make some friendship bracelets. And I would make myself a to-do list for the day. And it's like, make friendship bracelets. And that would sort of ease the productivity addicted part of myself. So it's like, look, we check things off the list, but it was all like, learn the hot to go dance. Like truly, like one of my to-do lists was like, learn the hot to go dance, friendship bracelets, play the ukulele once or something. And then like I just was so accomplished that day with the things that were just for me. And so in terms of what I like learned, I would say the most 2 core things and then a couple other little bonus things. But like one really core thing was I noticed how much easier it was for me to start to enjoy myself quicker and to relax quicker. And that's because really, especially since that last summer sabbatical, I have really practiced enjoying myself and relaxing and resting and, working under my capacity and being resourced enough to work under my capacity, delegating enough, quitting enough, like all of those things. So that I just routinely like allow myself to feel pleasure, allow myself to feel joy, allow myself to feel delight, allow myself to take naps in the middle of the day. So like last summer, it felt quite novel and new. And especially with everything that happened before the summer last year with my husband's cancer and stuff, it felt like a real like detox. And that was beautiful and wonderful. And this year, I didn't feel like I had as much to detox because so much of my life feels not okay. I'm not going to be like, so much of my life feels like vacation, like every day's a vacation. Some of that stuff's sort of like weird marketing terms. I don't mean it quite like that, but it is true that like so much of my life like feels like I'm having a good time. I have found ways for the majority of my time to feel at least pretty good or at least not horribly painful or like I'm forcing myself to be there even when I'm having unpleasant times. I'm like, I'm choosing this. This is part of it, And so I just had so much more. I like was able to ease myself in and like be vacation mode immediately because like I intentionally have vacation mode on a little bit every day. Even if it's like some days, yes, maybe I'm in it's a heavier, more fully booked day, but I'm at least like enjoying my drive and I'm making sure I'm having a good time and singing songs and not stressed then, but like really beyond that, I really have tried to make things very spacious this past year. And I will tell you, one of the things is that your vacations feel even better because you're not spending the whole time trying to forget about work. Like my brain was off work mode immediately. Like now this is actually sort of technically my first day back at work, but I take Mondays off. Like I don't do clinical work on Monday. And I sort of intentionally didn't book too many things. And then my body actually felt unwell in ways that meant I canceled some of the things I was supposed to do today. So in any ways, it's been a real vacation, ease back and sort of day anyway, which feels like my body did that on purpose for whatever reason. And what was my point in saying that? I don't remember. What was the beginning of the sentence? Nope, it's gone. That's okay. Well, I guess that's what you needed to hear about that then. Was that basically, oh, yes, I haven't been, speaking of not thinking about work, I'm not thinking about work so much that I forgot what I was talking about, which was work. And that's not to say I've been totally disconnected. Like one of the things that actually feels quite nice is that Amy, who you've now met, is a nurse practitioner who has been caring for my patients while I'm away, is like my locum basically. And we've had some touch points about certain clinical things, but on times that feel good to me and in ways that feel good for me, often the asynchronous, like voice memo way, in a confidential way, that feels really good for both of us. And that's felt like, that's even made it more so that I've been like, wow, like it's not just like, yay, I'm away from work and someone's dealing with it. Like I know the person who's dealing with it and I trust her so much and she's so excellent. And I have had little bits of connection to know a little bits of what's going on. And so I guess I'll let you know in the future, but like next week when I go into work and I open my EMR the first time in like almost a month, I'm sure it'll hit me in the face at least a little bit. Like I'm just assuming, but I haven't been completely disconnected either. But I have not opened my EMR. I have not looked at the inbox myself, and that's all incredible. 5 stars. I'm going to do a version of this every single year. Yes, please. Thank you so much. The last thing I wanted to say about that is that I was listening to this podcast where they were talking about just like nervous system stuff in general and trauma and that sort of thing. And they were saying how often, especially for people who have either been through traumatizing experiences or, I don't know, just are like human on this planet and have like interacted and had experiences in the world in its dehumanizing, unhelpful, kind of traumatizing ways. Often we have really shrunk our capacity for joy and pleasure, which you've heard me speak about before. And so like, one way to talk about all of those sorts of emotions is it's like a nervous system opening. Like you can feel true joy and pleasure in a state where you're not also under threat, because like joy and pleasure, these are the emotions that tell you like you are well, you are safe, you can drink this in, like eat this food, connect with this person. These are sources of safety and nourishment and like long-term health and vitality for you. Like that's like what those emotions are like meant to signal to you, right? Versus, but like if you're trying to do that and there's also like a tiger around, so like some kind of threat, you're also going to be at least a little bit tense, which is fair enough because like there's a tiger over there that could eat you. So if we're really used to just chronically thinking everything's a tiger and we've been socialized to think all these things are a threat, it can mean that we're sort of chronically braced, we're chronically tightened. We can physically feel that way, and our nervous system can be very sharply reactive into like fear and anxiety and shame kind of responses, or sadness responses, like closing kind of responses. And so when we practice routinely these like joy opening things in a way that feels safe to us over time, and we teach our bodies basically that we can create safety for ourselves and beyond safety, like beauty, nourishment, joy, pleasure, like for ourselves, that's an opening. And I would say that like I felt that way, like since I chronically sort of keep my nervous system open, or practice opening my nervous system is probably more accurate. Like that's a muscle I'm more used to. And that means that now when I'm on vacation, when things feel wider open and I'm less in an environment that's likely to be spicy and spiky to my nervous system, my body knows what to do and doesn't think that that's a threat nearly as much. Like, have I had any little rumblings of guilt for not being at work? Maybe. I mean, I'm still a human, but not in any kind of active way where I've had to be like, okay, now let's like deal with this. Having said that, the second thing that I was going to say, which was a big theme and a big lesson of these past 3 weeks, is that something that you should know, if you do start, you feel like, ooh, that sounds lovely. Maybe I want to start doing that. I'm going to start practicing joy. I'm going to start creating space. Maybe you reach out to me and you join Creating Space program. We still have a few spots left. We've got a few people signed up, but there's room for you. But whether or not you do those things, if you're considering that for yourself, one thing you should know that I have learned as a side effect is, as my body and I have come into like a more loving, safety building, securely attached relationship with each other, one way you could say it, things that I was sort of hiding from, deeper things that were down in there that I was aware of, but was like, it's fine. And kind of, if I'd really thought about it, I definitely would have guessed that there was sort of deeper trouble and trickiness underneath, family stuff. I don't want to speak too specific because I'm still kind of going through it and it is personal, but like the personal trickiness that comes up in a life that yours may or may not be the same. Some of it has to do with myself and my body. Some of it has to do with my closest relationships, money, all the classics. Some of that has really had space to bloom over the past 3 weeks. So though I have felt a lot of joy and delight, I have also, I think my body was like, okay, we're in this safe container. I'm about to like let you know this like pocket, like maybe like you could think of it as like a little abscess that's been hiding in there. And now we've been sort of healing the layers on top. And so now the pus has come forward. And so I also had some very unpleasant emotions that were not related to the fact that I was off, but were related to other things in my life, that my body now feels that I am in a safe enough space for me to address. And that was less fun. Sometimes actually quite intense in ways I said, okay, my body can give me these emotions, guilt, shame, anxiety, fear, sadness, like still very intensely. And I, just because I've done all this good work doesn't mean that they are not part of my lives. And that is good to know. I had like a shame story of like, oh, you've been working on this so long. Why are you still feeling emotions this intensely? And that was not a helpful shame story. It just made everything more intense. So we worked on that one too. I say we, I mean my body and I guess my therapist and some friends, but like mostly just me and my body were like, yes. And just like meeting each layer as it was coming up. Had a few nights that were short on sleep because of it, etc. So like sometimes more trouble, if you will, could be on your way. In fact, I would posit that whether consciously or subconsciously, a lot of the reasons that we keep ourselves very, very heavily busy is because we're very socially conditioned to do so and we're getting the rewards. And also, not only is it scary to consider slowing down because of the social conditioning, but also there's probably some stuff going in our lives that's like, maybe we'd rather avoid, and we can use like overworking and over being busy and productive as like a way to avoid really facing some of that stuff, and all of that's very valid. So if you're ever hearing me talk about creating space and you're like, absolutely I will not, and no thank you, and you're not even sure why, like maybe it's because you don't want to, and that's fine. Maybe it's because your nervous system is like, it's not safe for us to do that yet, and that's also valid. So I just want to like name that that's valid too. For me, I clearly was in a space where my body was feeling safe enough. And those were harder moments of this vacation. And I am also grateful for them because I feel like really revealing some of my work yet to come. But I can see that having these painful experiences now and realizing what support I need through those experiences, connecting and staying with myself, having my own back, being with myself through those experiences has really strengthened my like relationship with myself and with like resources I have in my life, people I have in my life that support me. And all of that is really meaningful and really good in the end. And I can see that the potential of where I can go from here is like amazing. And it wouldn't have happened except for going through the hard stuff, like even things with relationships, right? Like one I will speak to in not any specifics, but just giving an example, like one area that is I'm constantly continuing to be in, self-work in is around being a parent. And so I feel like a few layers of that sort of stripped away, and I am enjoying the results of that and how much deeper I'm able to connect with my kids, even though it was hard to go through the middle part. And same with my relationship with my husband, that like it's amazing to track like where we started and where we are now in terms of how much we understand ourselves each individually and what that means about how we are able to relate to each other. And I think like we needed all of those baby step initial stages, even if, you look back and you could cringe if you want, I guess, but like that got us here. And that's like how I feel about these past few weeks as well in relationship with him. Yeah, it's not easy, but it is worth it. I didn't put that on my to-do list, but because I left a lot of space, it wasn't like I'd packed my fun times so full of fun times that then I was like pissed that deeper work came up, and instead I like slept a bunch one day or cried a bunch one morning, right? And I had space to do that stuff too, which like regular life can make it tricky to actually have space to like meet yourself where you're at and like have a good cry day, have a good deep reckoning with yourself day. And I actually needed some of those, I learned. And will be more aware in the future that those could come up and, is like not over plan accordingly. And I'm glad I didn't over plan my fun days this time too. One of the other things I learned is a new word, which is multi-potentialite. Maybe you already knew this word, but I'd never heard it before. I think it's a term, maybe it's existed for a long time, but like the person who kind of brought it into more common lexicon is Emily Wapnick. They use they, them pronouns, and they have a TED Talk that's like from 2015. So it's almost 10 years old. So maybe everyone already knows about this term, but I hadn't heard it before. And basically it's a way of describing like a type of, you could say personality or a type of brain wiring, which is a person who has many interests and creative pursuits. Sort of the contrasting personality is someone who is a specialist. And so the thing that Emily talks about in their TED Talk is like a lot of the world is set up for specialists. It's like, what do you want to be when you grow up? It's going to be one thing. It's going to be a full-time stable job that looks exactly like this. And that's like what to strive for, which means that people who are more multi-potentialites, who like have many, many interests, who get really deeply into something and then lose interest when they get too good at it. And they actually want to keep multiple sort of streams of interest in their lives, they can struggle to even like find ways to make money because there are multiple different things, and they can feel maybe shame about that or think there's something wrong with them. And just like the TED Talk resonated deeply with me, so much so that I actually like made a whole podcast while I was on vacation about it. Maybe some time in the future I'll like really release it as a vault track, if you will. But I mean, the ultimate points I think that I learned from that term is, first of all, that I really identify as being a multi-potentialite. And it's a spectrum between specialist and multi-potentialite, right? Like these are constructs. They're not the defining way to split humanity into two buckets, of course. But I think as a family physician, I wonder if many people who are more generalists, whether family physician or some other role where you're more of a generalist within healthcare, if you would consider yourself a multi-potentialite. Specialists are super, super important and needed on teams. And the thing that Emily was really emphasizing is that multi-potentialites are equally in balance needed as well. And they actually can work very well together. And that multi-potentialites, because they have vast and differing interests, they can make new connections and bridge ideas across different spaces. And that's often a way that innovation happens, right? And I think that's kind of what I am doing here on this podcast. I'm bringing different ideas from different places. For example, the term multi-potentialite, which I am not aware is a common term in healthcare spaces. And, what if instead of saying just a generalist, we said, I'm a multi-potentialite physician. I just think doesn't it sound fun, even if it's more of a mouthful? So that was a fun thing I learned that I really want to celebrate about myself and celebrate about you. If you notice like, oh yeah, like I don't really like going and doing the exact same thing every day. That's why I like being in clinic and going into the hospital, for example, or doing home visits, or that's why I like working at two different agencies doing different work. Like if you notice that you actually quite enjoy varying your schedule, you could look up multi-potentialite TED Talk and see if you resonate with that. And if that's a term that helps you see yourself a little clearer, then that's a beautiful thing. Yeah. And the last thing I was just noticing is what it seems like. It seems like this past year has been a lot about rest, space, pace, connecting with my body. And then pleasure has been like the big theme of the last many months. And I'm noticing a bit of a shift. Like all of those are still there, sort of like fundamental foundational things that I'm still, when I don't have them enough in my life, I really notice. And they just feeling very essential to me at all times. And I'm noticing that out of those, I'm getting kind of like this gut sense and this like direction of wanting to explore themes of like power and desire as a piece of power, self-sovereignty, not just autonomy, but power, sovereignty, and really kind of claiming it further and further in my own life. And just curious where that takes me. Because certainly, like, as recovering people pleaser slash strong default fawn, uh, trauma response, or like however, whatever language you want to use, like, I just continue to notice how much, especially historically, but even now, like my brain and my body are really attuned to other people. And of course, I don't think I'd ever want to be non-attuned to people and like walk into them. I want to know that people exist around me and I want to connect with them. But I have a strong tendency towards, whether you call it codependency or people pleasing or fawning, where it's like your needs over mine, tracking what you may think or feel about me and trying to respond accordingly. Though I've done a ton of work to lower my conditioning, it's definitely still there, and I'm feeling like even a stronger call to like let go another layer of that and really start speaking my truth more. I think it started through this podcast where I could just like speak my truth to my own reflection, and then people would listen if they wanted to or not. But I'm getting stronger a stronger sense, a stronger resource sense from inside of me to speak more frequently, more truth, more assertive, if you will, in different spaces that I find myself in. And that feels a little scary, but also like I'm ready because I've resourced myself with a ton of time with myself. And even if one of these interactions goes very badly, which I guess would mean like emotions happen, I have the space to deal with it. So I don't know if that will mean the podcast will continue to evolve in terms of you may notice more. I'm thinking of creating podcasts around the idea of power and communication and those sorts of things. And so that might be something to look forward to if those are of interest to you in the upcoming months. Because often the things that I am learning are the things that I share. So just little heads up that might be coming your way. And yeah, otherwise, what else? I love being human, even when it's hard, even when I feel not okay, I am okay. And anyway, I don't get to be another species. So might as well love the one I am and the individual expression of the one that I am. And the amount of practice I've had, basically, self-compassion, self-affection, self-friendship, which is really the absolute bedrock foundation under everything I'm even describing. Like the reason to create space is to as an act of love towards myself. The reason to speak more assertively is as an act of love to myself. And it's the way that then I can authentically express love towards others. That is the best feeling. And I never ever looking back from that. And I have so much love out of that. I have so much love and affection and compassion, and I'm so proud of all of you, even though I don't know you individually, a lot of you, and don't know if I'll ever meet you, but just know I'm always cheering for you. That's often my signature, especially with people that I'm working with directly. I'll say cheering for you, Joan, because I am. And it's remarkable to think of folks that have listened to this and have had their own version of a journey like I've just described, where they notice that they feel more human and that feels better. And what if the ultimate point is just to feel good and to notice what feels good and move towards that? Because what if our bodies have that wisdom? And I just feel like the past 3 weeks, just like the past number of years, have been further proof of that for me in my life, including when things feel hard, So that's all I had to share with you. So one extra thing I'm going to tack on to the end of this is one thing that I did with my kiddos while I was off, because I thought it would be cute and kind of fun. And it ended up being cute and kind of fun, which was I made a little mini podcast with them. So you'll get introduced to my two sons' voices, and I guess video if you watch. And so think of it as just, first of all, kid voices, adorable. Everyone, well, I won't say everyone. If you don't like kids' voices, turn it off now. But if you do, enjoy. And also one of the themes that I really was hoping to chat with them about is like the idea of not giving up. And you can tell I was like doing some leading questions and they weren't totally into it, but they did give some cute answers. One thing I've been very inspired by, and one of my like role models to not give up myself, is watching, especially my older son, learn to ride a bike, and just in general experience a summer where we accidentally put him in many, many camps that were about him learning a brand new skill, and he hasn't reacted positively. He's found it very challenging. He doesn't like being a beginner and being new at things. And it's been hard but beautiful to watch him, go through that experience knowing it will serve him in the end. And also, in reflection of like creating space and capacity and pleasure activism, I think in the future, as much as, it's a real like roll of the dice to try and get into any camp. So you're just like happy the camps you get into. I don't know if it's like that where you are, but it is where we are. But my goal will be to have a more of a mix of like pleasure versus learning new skills, because it ended up being like almost completely learning new skills and different ones every week, like skating, biking, swimming, sports. And so I'm curious if he's in a mix, if that will help bolster his ability to have a bit more of a beginner's mind on the weeks when he is learning new things. We'll see. But it certainly has been inspiring for me to continue to not push myself in a self-punishing way, but inspiring me to say, if I'm finding something hard, if I'm stepping into a new space, if I'm working on reclaiming my sovereignty, body sovereignty, the notion that it is safe for me to say my opinion in a room, irrespective of what the reactions around me happen after that, which is still a process for me very much. Look at this little kiddo, and he didn't think he could ride a bike, and now he can. And like all these things are connected, right? So that's another reason, sort of part of why I asked them the questions I ask, is because I think kids have a lot to teach us, and they are our role models in so many ways. They don't know all the inhuman stories yet. And so seeing what they have to say can be fun. So enjoy that. And I'll talk to you next week. Hello there, healthcare humans. Thank you for coming back for another episode of The Other Human in the Room. Today, I have two very special guests. Do you guys want to introduce yourselves?
Felix. Leia.
These are my two sons, and I thought it would be fun to make a little podcast episode with them. So what do you want to tell people about yourself, Felix? What do you like? What are some of your favorite things to do?
Watch TV.
What?
Watch TV.
Watch TV?
Yeah.
Anything else?
Not really.
Not really? Okay, there you go.
I love to poop in the toilet.
There you have it, folks. That's what they want to share with you. Okay. So my podcast is about people who work in medicine like me, who work in healthcare, so like doctors and nurses and that kind of thing. And the problem is that like people who are doctors like me, sometimes we get really stressed and we feel like our job is too hard because there's so many people who are sick and need our help, and we feel like we can't do it. So if there's someone out there and they feel stressed and they feel like they can't do it, what do you think they should do?
Keep trying, and maybe they might get them to feel better.
Oh, just keep trying. Okay. And what do you think, Leo? So if someone's feeling really stressed about their work, what should they do?
They should calm down.
How do they calm down? How do you calm down when you're feeling stressed?
Take deep breaths. Take deep breaths. Take deep breaths.
And what else do you do to help you when you're feeling stressed, Felix?
Try again.
How about you, Leo? Is there anything else you do that helps you when you feel stressed?
Going by yourself. Going somewhere else and go by yourself and count, and you can sleep, or you could sing, or you can sing, or you can take a rest, or you can hug your stuffies.
I love all of those ideas, actually.
Or you can drink water. Or you can drink some water.
Oh, drinking water could be helpful.
Or you can talk to someone.
Like who? Who could they talk to?
Another doctor, and how to do it.
Oh, ask another doctor how to do it.
A papa and a mama.
Oh, or your papa and mama.
But mamas can ask papas and papas can ask mamas.
You said, well,
If they're at home.
if they're at home. That's great. Thank you so much. Now, I think that probably part of the problem is that our jobs make it hard for us to relax because there's so many people and they're like, I want help, you know? And sometimes it's hard to say no when there's so many people who want help. So how do you say no when you don't want to do something?
Stop.
Just stop. But what if someone's like, I want this, do this, but it's like, it's too much. Like, what do you say? Mama and papa are telling you, do this, but it's too much and you're overwhelmed and you're not sure what to do. How would you tell us that?
You could just say, stop talking. Just tell me one at a time.
Oh, that's a great idea. How about you, Leo?
You can climb a chimney.
Or you can climb a chimney. All right. And one last thing I was thinking would be helpful. So for me, one thing that's helped me feel less stressed is for me to make different changes. So I've learned how to say no better, and I've learned how to decide for myself and choose things. But that's hard because at first it feels hard. It feels like I don't know how to do that. It's not my usual way. And I was thinking for both of you, you guys have to learn things all the time that are new and feel hard. Like Felix, you just learned how to ride a bike, right?
Mm-hmm.
So at first, when you first started trying to ride a bike, what was that like?
It was very tricky. It took a long time to get far distance.
And like, were there times where you wanted to give up?
Yes.
And so what did you do when you wanted to give up?
Well, I sort of hated biking by then, but then I started liking it when I got better.
Oh, and so how did you stick with it enough until you got better?
So I told myself I could do it, and then I did it.
Yeah, like there would be times, right, where you get frustrated and say, I can't do it. And what will we say to you?
Try again.
Yeah. And do you remember the kind of thing, like, because when we say, I can't do it, what's another way to say it when you don't know how to do it yet? We are. Just, well, I'll ask you, Leo. Leo, do you remember what's the thing that we say instead of I can't do it?
Just keep trying.
And we also say,
I can do it.
I can do it and I'm learning to do it, right?
Yeah. You do what?
So like if you don't know how to say someone's really having trouble with something, we say, oh, that person's still learning how.
Oh. Learning how to do the what?
Which, like riding a bike.
Yeah, whatever.
Well, what are you learning how to do right now, Leo?
Riding a bike, but I already know how to ride a bike.
With training wheels.
With training wheels. But
soon you will learn how to ride a bike without training wheels, just like me.
Yeah.
And is there anything that you're learning that right now feels hard, but you're still learning?
Yes.
Yeah, almost.
Using one hand on my bike is pretty hard.
Yeah, you're learning hand signals.
Yeah.
And is it fun while you're learning it?
No.
Not really.
Just like I started riding.
Yeah. It's nice to try and find a way to have fun even when it's hard. But also, what helps you remember? Like, why is it going to be worth it to learn hand signals? What do you get if you keep with it, even though hand signals are kind of boring on a bike?
You get stressed.
No. But like, if you learn hand signals, what's the prize at the end?
You learn how to do it.
Yeah, and what will you get to do when you've learned hand signals? What will you get to do with Mama and Papa?
Road biking.
And why is that something you want to do?
So that we can go biking all together.
Yeah, and someday you can even go biking. You could go bike to your friend's house.
And someday I'll do that by myself.
Yeah, and the only way you can do it is if you do the hard thing now, right?
One day I can go there your bike there and do it.
Yeah.
And you can play in a playground if you're sad too.
Oh, another good idea. Okay, so that's it. So, Leo, if there's someone who's listening and they're feeling really sad and stressed with their life, what do you want to tell them?
Calm down or try again. But what if they throw toys?
Well, what's the advice if they're throwing toys?
But what
You should just send them to the room to let them calm down and count to 10.
That's a good idea.
Deep breaths.
10 deep breaths.
But when Catherine is very, very mad, they bring her out of the classroom, bring her in the office.
Yeah, maybe we don't have to say.
There's a teacher Catherine and a kid Catherine.
There you go, folks. And Fefe, so say someone's really sad and they're feeling like they want to give up and they don't even want to try and make things better anymore. What would you like to tell them?
Stop what you're doing and think about it.
There you go, folks. Well, thank you so much. We're going to watch this video now. And don't give up. Take some deep breaths. Period. I would love to take this work deeper with you. Visit joanchanmd.com today and discover my growing menu of options for restorative medical education to suit your learning needs. I offer one-on-one coaching, customized workshops, and self-study courses that allow you to connect not only with my work on a deeper level, but also with other healthcare humans just like you. So if you want to start humanizing your work in healthcare to a deeper level and do it in community with others, please visit joanchanmd.com and find those options and what fits you and your life today.